Hi, Mike. So I met a photographer in Publix today, and he told me he takes these glamour shots. He claims to be a buparazzi. Buparazzi. So Pixie and I have been married for 40 years. She'll have 50% of a conversation in her head before she brings me into it, and then I'm accused of never paying attention. You know, maturing in marriage is accepting the fact that your wife cannot remember where she left her glasses, but she can remember something I said 39 years ago on a Monday night. The three most frightening words in any marriage: I was thinking. The last time she was thinking, it cost me 50 grand to put an addition onto the house. You know, I forget a lot of stuff. She accuses me of forgetting important shit all the time. And I must admit, I have what I like to call Italian Alzheimer's. I forget everything except the grudges. You know, we're Italian. We talk with our hands a lot. We're always going a mile a minute. Pixie looks like she's landing planes on an aircraft carrier. Well, she broke her wrist a year ago and she developed a speech impediment. You know, usually we finish each other's sentences after being married for 40 years. It's sort of the natural thing. I usually start, and she usually finishes it with something like, "You dumbass." When I was a kid, my lunchbox included things that the other kids didn't have. I had linen napkins, I had real silverware, I even had a little wine glass my Nona gave me. I also had 6 extra meatball sandwiches that I used to sell to the Jewish kids at school. You know you're Italian when you use the rubber bands from the broccoli rabe as your wallet. When I was a kid, I needed a new wallet. I went to my grandfather's house. I said, "Hey, Pop, I need a new wallet." He reached in the drawer. He threw 20 rubber bands on the table. He goes, "Pick a your color." You know, I've been around 6 generations of Italian women, and I can tell you, they talk incessantly. They never stop. It's almost as if they can breathe through their ears. Which occurs, and it occurs to me now, if they could breathe through their ears, that whole argument of, "I'm not sucking that because I can't breathe," gets blown out of the water. Amen, brother, right? I thought this aging shit would take a lot longer. I would much rather deal with acne than arthritis. I went to the doctor because my hands were stiff. I couldn't button my shirts. And the doctor examined me and he says, "Listen, you got arthritis from head to toe." He says, "And you got to get used to it because it makes everything stiff." Not true, not everything. You know you're old? You know you're old when your balls are longer than a CVS receipt. I used to drink a fair bit to get buzzed. Now when I want to get that feeling, I just stand up really quickly. And drinking hits very different when you're older. I now get a 3-day hangover when I drink a blueberry smoothie. I walk into the bathroom. Some of you may be able to relate to this. I walk into the bathroom now, and I'm standing. Oh! That was an awful play. Colts suck, by the way. Anyway, so I walk in the bathroom now, and I stand at the bowl, and it actually takes me longer to start peeing than it does to actually pee. And when I do, it's sort of like Morse code. It's these urinary dots and dashes. You know, there's 4 rules to aging. 1 is you never pass up a bathroom. 2, you never waste an erection. 3, never get on the floor without a plan to get back up. And 4, most importantly, you never, ever, ever trust a fart. Yeah, I don't know if you guys can see, but I got more than a few tattoos. And Pixie drops me off at the tattoo place. I go in, I get a tattoo, I come home. We're sitting out in the backyard. She looks down, she goes, "What is that tattoo, the 3 lines above your knee?" I said, "Well, you remember when the kids were little, we would draw lines on the door jamb so that we could chart their growth." She says, "All right, I get that, but why were the 3 lines?" I said, "Well, I'm trying to measure the impact of gravity on my balls." She says, "Why the dotted line?" I said, "Because at that point, I have to stop wearing shorts." You know, the first time I sat on the bowl and my balls splashed down was a traumatic experience. And I thought to myself, I can't go through the rest of my life like this. So I go to the workshop and I'm going to develop the TFDs, the testicular flotation device. So I land on 2 mini bagels. But floating in the water, they sort of broke up. Well, then I thought I should polyurethane them, and to keep them secure, I put a nice smear of cream cheese on them. They stayed nice and tight. You guys are familiar with these pharmaceutical commercials you see on TV, right? There's people running through a pasture. There's a classic rock song or an old disco song playing in the background, and people are frolicking. Then come the side effects. Now, I'm no chemist, so I don't really understand the science behind it, but how could one drug cause both constipation and diarrhea? It just doesn't seem right. The other thing that freaks me out is the swelling of your perineum, or as I like to call it, the chin rest. You know, menopause was also an interesting time for us. I like to call it the thermostat wars. She would set the thermostat down so low in the house, we had intermittent flurries in the bedroom. She used to complain about the hot flashes, and I didn't get it. So I asked her about it. I said, what are these hot flashes like? She said, it's like I'm burning from the inside out. I said, I get it. It's sort of like when I eat a very spicy Italian meal. I woke up a half hour later and she was standing over me with a frying pan. I'm in bed one night and I hear bzzz, little loud, a little faster, bzzz. I turn around all excited. There she is with the little fan from the nightstand trying to cool herself off. I had something entirely different in mind. And finally, you know, menopause is really Mother Nature's way of telling an Italian woman she's going to deal with facial hair for the rest of her life. My grandmother at age 90 had such a luxurious beard that she was asked to front for ZZ Top. All right, that's my time, everyone. Have a great holiday season. Thanks for hanging out with us.